There is no joke in this. I'm literally tired all the time. Today on the Manspace. Welcome to the Manspace podcast. We're your hosts, Doctors Matt Brown and Rob Porter, and clinical therapist Mike Porter. Welcome, Spacemen. Wake up, Mike.
Ironically, I could fall asleep right now.
I was going to say I don't want to jump too fast into this, but one of the reasons this topic stood out to me is it's like I have thought, what the crap is wrong with me? I'm exhausted all the time. Mm-hmm. Like I could take a nap at any second. Yeah. Becky's always a little baffled. Like, I can take a nap at 9:30 at night, wake up at 9:50, 10. Stay up for another half an hour,
and then go back to bed.
Sleep. I could take a 3-hour nap from 7 to 10. Wake up, do something for half an hour, go back to sleep. It doesn't matter. Nothing ever throws my sleep off.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with me.
If I sleep 3 hours, it'll throw my sleep off. But
like I keep thinking, surely there must be something wrong. Also, this is another thing that makes me wonder.
There is, and don't call me Shirley.
Stop. Don't call me Shirley. At 46. We were up in Utah, so they're 1 hour behind us. Mm-hmm. And I've been back, and each morning I try to wake up. I'm like, why am I so tired? Am I jet lagged after 1 hour? Like Becky and I are both like, why does it take me like a week to recover? And it's not even like when I was in Utah. Actually, I was exercising a ton. Uh-huh. Like I went running. I was running 3.5 miles every day until I was in a different neighborhood. Then I was using my rucksack and doing 4 miles. One day I did a 4-mile rucksack up through the hills above BYU.
Yeah.
And then I went on a hike with the rucksack. So I did like 8 miles total with my rucksack. Like I was exercising a ton. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I should get here and be like, usually like if I've gotten too lazy, then I get home and it's like, I just need to, how do I get back? Yeah. But now my body's like, why didn't you give us a break, you idiot?
Side note, man, every time I say rucksack, I'm like, did I say that right?
Dude, I mentioned to somebody and the woman kind of goes, I was like, what? Have you not heard of rucksack? She's like, I just haven't heard anybody say it in a long time. I was like,
in a long time?
Yeah, she said, I was like, what do you mean? In a long time? Used to be a thing?
It's not super trendy anymore.
Like, was it trendy? Where we were all walking around in like the 90s being like, hey, check out that rucksack.
Well, not in the 90s, but a couple of years ago.
No, dude, that was the hacky sack era. Now we got hacky sacks.
That's what sorry. I boofed it.
Boofed. Dude, when I was at my, I didn't realize this. I forgot that this had happened when I was, Mike, I don't know if you remember the phrase that we used to use, bit cups.
Yeah. Bit cups?
Bit cups. Instead of calling some the B word, like bit cups.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And I was like, what was that about? Ryan reminded me that Paul gave us a master, it was like here's a CD that had, this one song edited 9 different ways, but he had such terrible handwriting that Ryan's like, it says 9 different wags, bit cups. No, me and Ryan I like to, when we were on that trip, Ryan'd be like, 9 different wags, bit cups. Is like, yeah, I forgot the bit cups. It's just bad handwriting. That's all. I feel like I should talk about some TV show I've watched recently, but I did not watch any TV shows. I will tell you something that happened to me today. Because when you're up in like a different city, like my kids are always like, oh, this feels so much better. Because you go up to like desert and at night you sit outside and no bugs touch you. Mm-hmm. Like you just sit out there and it just feels nice. Or you go in the shade and you're like, huh, it just dropped like 15 degrees.
Yeah.
And we went on multiple hikes. I got made fun of because one hike we went on, it's called Horsetail Falls. It was pretty. It was only like, it's like 2.2 or 3 or something like that, or 4 on the way up. Mm-hmm. And then it's just up and back. There's no switchbacks. Dude, it was like the steepest freaking hike I think I've ever done. And I got the rucksack on. And by the time I finished going down, my legs were so freaking shaky. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember why I'm telling you this story anymore, but
you said TV shows.
Well, no, because I don't have any TV shows I'm watching currently. No, I was thinking about how I was telling Matt when I was driving into Houston, it's like, I like Houston. Like there's tons of trees everywhere. It's pretty.
Well, good news. If you ever wanted to move to Houston, their market never spiked like Austin's did.
Well, Austin's is already on the road back down.
And you
Not
could have a
necessarily
swimming
Austin
pool.
itself, but that's true. 9 different wags, big cups. But when I was driving through Elgin, it was like overcast and just almost hazy and super thick in humidity, and I could smell barbecue. It reminded me of the South. I loved it so much.
It is a good smell.
I do love the South. Sometimes I wish I could live there.
Dude, when you're talking about TV shows,
That sounds really rambly.
no, I've actually been watching more movies lately, but I can't. We've watched some good ones, and I can't even remember any of them.
Hilariously bad one.
What was it?
The Dressmaker with Kate Winslet.
Oh,
and one of the Hemsworths.
Oh no,
Like
no.
from a few years ago, right?
From like 2016 or 17 or something like that. Dude. There's really good characters in it. Hugo Weaving, who is Mr. Anderson,
Yeah.
Agent Smith.
I just watched that actually.
He was awesome in it. He plays like either a gay or transgender guy. It was freaking hilarious. And the mom of Kate Winslet was also awesome. But the plot twists were like, wait, what? What just happened? You know, like she figures out her trauma and suddenly they're having sex. And I was like, that feels like taking advantage of a situation.
Yeah.
And then 2 seconds later, he's jumping into the grain silo, which he's done thousands of times. But it turns out, whoops, it's not wheat this time. It's sorghum. And he dies. Sorry, spoiler alert. And it was like, what? And then at the end of the movie, she burns the town to the ground. It was like, what just happened?
Why did you watch this?
Mary and I were talking about like Kate Winslet, and I was like, I love Kate Winslet. And then
And this is the one you decided to go with?
Well, she mentioned Dressmaker.
Of all the Kate Winslet movies you probably haven't seen?
She mentioned it and said she liked it. And I liked the characters. It was just a story, and I was like, what? It felt like there were certain parts where it felt like the music was all off, and it was like, this feels like a cheesy soap opera. It was hilarious. It was very enjoyable from that respect.
We did. What movie did Jenner and I just watch?
Today on the Manspace.
It didn't have all I remember is we got to the end of it and I thought it was probably supposed to be tense, but it wasn't because I think they used the wrong. It was Fountain of Youth.
Oh yeah, I didn't see it, but
wait, who's in that?
It's John Krasinski, Natalie
Oh
Portman.
right, yeah.
Domhnall.
Yeah, did you like
Gleeson.
it? We were about to watch that.
So I love Guy Ritchie. I think he's a great director.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movies that he does that are his own stories are much better. When I see him direct someone else's stories, I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like he's got a unique style, but it was fine. It's just fluff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there were some scenes where like this was kind of, did you guys ever see Red Notice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to like Red Notice. But the action scenes felt so choreographed, it was distracting to me.
Mm.
And there was some scenes where I thought, it borders on that. Like it feels like it should be better. And that's why I decided, I think the music they have the wrong music for it. And so like some of the scenes that were supposed to be like, thrilling, intense weren't because the music took away from it. But I mean, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
A couple hours. John Krasinski is always funny.
If you want that's what we watched. A Good Person.
It's on my list.
It's dark
who's
and
in that
heavy.
one?
Oh, what is her name? She's the lady on Dune.
Is it? Wait, is that the Zach Braff one?
Yeah. Yeah, the cinema therapy guys interviewed him about this movie.
Yeah.
It's like about addiction and grief and stuff, and it was really good. But Bob Trevino likes it. Was actually like super emotional and good. It's based on a true story. And then Nona's.
Nona's was good.
Did you watch that?
Really?
I really liked it.
Well,
yeah.
I should say, I liked it a lot.
It looked dumb.
I like Vince Vaughn.
Me too. He's Vince Vaughn in every movie.
I know, and I freaking love it. And he's Vince Vaughn in this, and it's great. It wasn't like it was one of those ones where for me there were things that I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. Like I don't know. Like the story wasn't super cohesive to me like it was, but I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I just like, it was one of those things where I was like, I don't feel like I should like this as much as I like it, but I liked it.
I liked it because it really exists. And I'm like, man,
Yeah,
if I
I
ever go
like
to New
that.
York again, I want to go visit that place.
Yeah,
But,
I had that same thought. Like I would go there just, I think it's a great concept.
Yeah. Yeah, we watched, have you guys seen Oblivion? It's like 2014 or something.
Yeah, with
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah.
Side note, I felt like there was a lot of gaps in that one. It was okay, but kind of like, what? But
yeah.
Side note, Spacemen. If you want like one of the best interview clips ever, search like Dustin Hoffman, Tom Cruise, Rain Man interview.
Dude, I looked that up after. Yeah. And Tom Cruise is just like legitimately laughing.
It's funny. I saw an interview after that where Tom Cruise talked about meeting him for the first time. And he was like, you know, super intimidated because Dustin Hoffman
it's Dustin
is
Hoffman.
awesome. And so he's like, so he walks over there and he's like, hey, like, I can't remember how he introduced himself, but he was like just starting to, and Dustin Hoffman was like, Cruise. And he was like just immediately was like admiring him and said, I want to do a movie with you. And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. And like, kind of like, you know, Tom Cruise wasn't expecting anything. And then he sent him the script to Rain Man. He's like, oh, me for this? Cool. So
Dustin Hoffman. Hey, before we move into our topic and we get into the nitty gritty of why Rob is so exhausted, I do want to follow. Because I've gotten a handful of responses from people still about the test, the masculinity test.
Oh, really?
The angel investor of Manspace actually had basically a perfect score. He was right about almost around at like 50 on every single one, which I will go ahead and attribute to the Manspace. He really applied
nailed
the
it things that
we've been all the things. So Spacemen, if you will just apply what we've been talking about, you too can be a man in his fullness across the board.
I will say too, sorry to cut anybody down in their prime. So this was kind of a tragic, devastating and confusing discovery, right? But the guy,
I looked that up though.
Yeah, the guy who developed those archetypes, who did a ton of stuff for the men's movement in the 90s. I'll let you form your own opinion about what happened, but basically there was what has been labeled a murder-suicide where he shot his wife.
Oh, right.
And then killed himself, but it's like
possibly the other
details. Way. Yeah, possibly the other way, and like tons of confusion with like police reports and stuff, and also he was like kind of entering into dementia. So anyway, that was like, man, that makes, I mean, not that you want to look back on everything through that lens, but yeah, it was like,
yeah,
ouch.
The thing I read said there was no like residue from gunshot on his hands.
Yeah, and the gun was in his left hand and he's right-handed, and like all sorts of. Yeah.
Anyway,
so
either way, it sucks. But here's the other. Here's the other. Here's the other. Another one that said his scores were King 75, Warrior 69, Magician 69, and Lover 81. So he's tending towards tyrant, sadist, detached manipulator, and addicted lover.
Sweet.
But then this is actually, I thought was interesting. It was a good point. He said interesting results, and it actually tells me a lot about things I've been long been working on. I guess the difference between being a horrible person and being a good person is realizing what you can be and moderating your behavior to what you need to be.
Yeah.
Which was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting and cool thought to say. Because I had a conversation with somebody this morning about worthiness. Like worthiness isn't like, are you spotless or not? It's like, what's the efforts that you're making, and where's your focus and your heart pointed? Like, so this idea, it's like, I mean, there's things that I'm already working on, but I'm trying to work towards what I need to be and who I can become.
Yeah.
But still in the end, it's like, I liked his conclusion too, is like, it wasn't the most helpful test necessarily. Because
none of them are.
And I'm Hermione. Now, why? I've thought about this because Spacemen, now that we're I mean, this is just par for the course. Stop complaining. You guys all like being here. Spread the word, would you? We haven't gotten very good at social media yet, so we need you guys to do the legwork. It's the Spaceman Army. Space Force.
I do like the growth mindset there, though, Rob.
See?
We haven't gotten very good at the social media yet. The implication is we will.
It's coming.
It's because, man.
Though 4 years of evidence suggests that's not true.
I just don't like social media, but I'm developing a plan.
Hey, spoiler alert too for listeners. I'll just put you guys on the spot, and we'll have to think about if we want to do this.
Oh,
how would you feel about for episode 200 punching each other in the rucksacks with like what if we sat down and we just like totally honestly told each other like, this is something that I see in you that I think you need to work on.
Oh, whoa! Like you
like a true man's group, right? Where it's like, hey, man, I love you enough to say this is an area. Well, I love you enough to say this is where I really see you shining and contributing to the world around you. And here's something that I think either you don't see or you see, but I think you're afraid to work on it.
I'm open to it, but I know exactly.
I'm open to it.
But that's we're like 3 episodes away from that.
I was going to say, there's also part of me that thinks. So Matt, do you have like a list of things that you're like?
No, like I want to.
Maybe if I do this, then I can be like, hey, Mike, there's a few things I've been meaning to talk to you about.
No, but see, that's the funny thing, man.
Rob, you're fine.
I feel like that probably prevents us, not just us, but like all men from really even thinking about this and inviting it, because like we've talked about this before, when you have a guy like cut you down because he loves you, it feels really, I mean, it's hard, but it feels really supportive, right?
Yeah, it's a very different thing.
Yeah. And I don't know that like there's enough modeling of that. So I don't think we do it perfectly, and no, I don't have any, like I'm way more in my own head about my own stuff, right? So but I think it is helpful just to like hear it from someone you trust, like this, what are you seeing in me, right?
Yeah.
Where do you think is keeping me stuck? And
I actually think it's a really good idea. It just scares the crap out of me, but I'm all for it.
Well, I was going to say,
I know I'm already like, I know what mine are, but now I'm like, what if there's stuff I don't know?
Every time you use my bathroom when you come here, Rob,
I can't flush it for a week.
You need to get better at the angle of the air freshener spray.
That would be. I think that maybe it's like 4 weeks away. I can't remember what episode we're on.
Well, we could also.
I like that though.
We could also save it for when I'm up there.
I think we should for sure save it when you're in person. We're on. Yeah. This would be episode 194.
This one is?
Yeah. 193 was What is Respect? Because we didn't do one last week. Sorry, Spaceman.
Sorry, guys. Stress.
Sorry.
That is stress. So back to that topic, because we're already neck deep in here, and I'm trying to get these things a little shorter. I want to keep them under an hour.
Good plan. Is that strategic? So our feedback is like, hey, you're a good dude, but you need to work on this. See ya.
I'm trying to get them to under 5 minutes.
Rob wants to switch exclusively to man nuggets.
The funny thing is I'm the editor, so whatever you guys say, I'm just going to go
and
and
Rob,
I
really
come
think
over.
you need to.
I like the way I say editor, like I do anything but put stuff on the beginning and clip off the end. I don't do anything in the middle. So here's going back to this topic, because this is something that I've wondered about. I feel like I was saying something to Spaceman, but I forgot what it was. But here was something I wondered about, which is I've thought many times, like when I go to the doctor, I've even mentioned on the show before, like when I go to the doctor and I find out I have high blood pressure, and when she looks at everything, all my numbers and my blood panel and all that stuff, and she looks at the way I exercise, and she listens and says, you had a really strong heart. I'm like, I know, thank you, but why do I have high blood pressure?
So you don't have cholesterol issues?
I
I thought you had said that your cholesterol was high, but it's just your blood pressure.
No, it seems like maybe there is it's like the good one is just slightly low and the bad one's just slightly high on cholesterol. I don't remember what the LDL is, the bad one.
Yeah, and triglycerides.
Whatever, it's like those are just slightly, but not really.
Okay.
Not anything that's like, hey, you got to work on that. And my blood pressure is actually just borderline not good, except for when I went to the dentist and she's like, the lower one was like 94. And she's like, oh, did you get nervous? And I was like, nope, not at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not nervous at all here. Like, I just have high blood pressure. And my pillows aren't working. But I have thought
mine work great.
Well, because she said, what are you using? It's not
Losartan. Linsa something.
All right, I got to get something else. Anyway, I've thought like, well, maybe I'm more stressed than I think I am. Like, like that's partly why I tried to get, and I've done much better this year. I need to kind of get back in again, but I've gotten much better about meditation this year.
Yeah,
trying to like just because maybe it's I think if we lived at a stressed level or an anxious level, for most of us, we don't even know we're doing it because it's usually a gradual process. And so like I've wondered, what if I'm exhausted all the time because my brain isn't shutting down the way it needs to shut down?
Yeah.
And I mean shut down like have better boundaries mentally around, like, because I can have boundaries with clients where it's like, I won't see you past this time, but I will think about my practice and my clients all the time.
Yeah.
So like maybe I'm more stressed than I think I am, and maybe that's exhausting me. I don't know.
No, I think you are right.
Okay.
Not
Catch us next time on the Manspace. Oh,
I think that that one thing that like I'm sure everybody does, right? I always feel like I have to like say to any female listeners out there, like this isn't just a man thing, but I think there are like specific things that are different for men and women in the way that this manifests. But I think fundamentally, most men, me included, like if I were to really ask myself or other people, like, hey, does your pain and your discomfort matter? And I think really if we answer that honestly, it'd be like one of two answers. One is no, I like, doesn't, I can push through it or whatever, right?
Yeah. It's my job to push through it.
I don't have any pain, right? Like, which is just like, I numb that out and I don't know, right? But like the consequence of, I think our minds first with stress and things like that, like our mind first goes to like, well, if I let it matter, then like, I don't even know where I would go from there. And it just feels bad. Like, like I don't, like we've said before, I absolutely hate when anybody says like, you need to sit with your feelings. Cause like, that's like every guy that has told me that's been said to them is kind of like, I don't even know what that means. One.
Yeah.
And two, what is the point? And I think same thing. If I say my pain matters, I'm saying that I'm going to pay more attention to it, but then what? Right. And I think it's more complex than just the guys don't want to be weak. I'm like, well, that's like the tip of the iceberg, but I think that there's much more to it than that. And so we probably don't register the actual impact of our stress. Like this blood panel I just had done. I think for sure part of it had to do with diet, right? Which for listeners that know, I made that diet change a while ago. I'm not 100% sold on it now. But, like my triglycerides were like through the roof. And my fasting glucose was high, not like off the charts high, but A1C was fine. But for sure, when you're eating like not enough like healthy fats, then your triglycerides go up, but like carbs. And so there's definitely like a dietary explanation for it. But I think like I've probably been like dousing my body in cortisol, which also triggers glucose release and all this other stuff. Side note, I just read a study that maybe will feel validating for some people, that they sampled 5,000 people, and parents of daughters are at least 2 times more stressed than parents of boys.
Like mother and father, parents.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they cited some reasons why, but anyway, I just think like stress, and then I think a lot of guys will be like, well, so what? I'm stressed. Like I can't change anything about, I got to keep doing this. And to your point about like meditation and like assessing threats differently and all the work it would take to maybe lower your cortisol and maybe lower your stress and help you to feel less exhausted. Like that's exhausting and that's stressful, right? Thinking about all that stuff. But I don't think as men, we let our pain matter enough to really get into solving some of those problems. And so to your point, I think we're probably all carrying more than we think we are. And the answer is not just like express your feelings, like talk about it, right? It's not just that.
It's interesting when you're talking about this, because I had your building is in default, and they decided to start doing lawn care outside.
Because they're trying to sell it now, so they're like, make this look pretty.
It's so loud. What lawn are they even mowing?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. They're like, they bring in lawnmowers to like mow the weeds in the parking lot.
So like one of the things I wonder when you're describing this, it's like it's being able to know, like, I think you have to pay attention to it so you can know what to change. Like this is going to mix in with a different topic we'll do a different day around like careers. Like I've known a couple people. You're actually, I could say 3, because in some ways you're one of them, not fully, but you left faculty to go just do this full time.
Yeah.
I've known some who've kind of done a much bigger shift, and some who talk about doing a bigger shift. It's like, and they're in the middle of doing a bigger shift. It's like, I think it's because they learn to listen to themselves, like they were burning out. And it's always surprising to me to hear someone talk about burning out in fields. It's like, oh, I don't know, you guys burn out too, like we do, huh? Weird. But you're making so much money. How do you burn out? You know, like, but just listening to say like, well, it's important enough to listen to say, hey, I don't feel like this, feels pretty miserable. Mm-hmm. And is this what I actually want to do? Like this exhaustion thing, it's kind of like I've thought more and more about, why am I doing some of the things that I'm doing? Is it because I have to, and this is what like, should I ignore this and just what pain and just keep pushing through it? Because if you don't, you're a whiner, or what, I don't know what that means to sit in my feelings, or what goods, I'm just going to get swallowed up in it. Even though I've told people like, you won't get swallowed up. I'm like, but would I? Mm-hmm. But it might work for us.
Yeah.
So like, just thinking through that idea of like, watching somebody who pays enough attention to the stress they're experiencing to say, hey, I got to do something about this. Mm-hmm. And it's funny to say stress. I think maybe it's easier to acknowledge and say, yeah, I'm stressed, than it is to say I'm experiencing pain.
Yeah.
Because stress sounds like maybe there's a normalcy to it.
Everybody's stressed. It's normal to have stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to validate.
But it is kind of, it makes me wonder, because some of these people I've watched, it's like because of the stress they experience, and not necessarily stress of like, life is really busy, but just various types of stress. Because of the stress they experience, they said, okay, well, I'm going to do something different. And has that become then energizing, so that they actually have more energy because they're engaging in something new? Because I've thought many times, like we've talked about before with burnout, like maybe it's part of this, my exhaustion is that there is a level of stress around the business side of things that I don't like. I mean, I've said I'd love to do therapy just kind of as like a free service.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the business part of it. I wish people just came to me and be like, I'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
But the other part stresses me out. And so trying to use that stress to then say, well, if this is the cause of my exhaustion, or if it's a factor, what is it you like? Don't like to, it is a plays.
It doesn't
a
play a factor. It is a factor.
It is a factor.
Plays a role.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I was listening to one of my pet peeves is when someone says the thing is, and I was watching some professional thing, and they said it like 8 times. It's like, how are we all just okay with this? Anyway, just wondering, like, if I'm more stressed than I think I am, should I be addressing that to say I need to make some changes? Because if I make those changes, would I actually feel more energized?
Mm-hmm.
To me, I'd feel more energized with the possibility of creating something new. Like I'm approaching this in a different way.
Yeah.
So I'm actually doing something about it, which I think men feel a little bit more on board with than sit in your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think they feel more on board with like do something about them, but you can't do something about it unless you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So like I've thought, am I exhausted because I have like, I don't know, something wrong with my thyroid or something else? But all my panels are always so good that I'm like, guess not. I mean, at some point,
Mm-hmm.
I had high calcium in my blood. And then I went back 6 months later, like, nope, guess you don't. And I was like, okay. So that didn't answer anything. I thought for sure I had hypercalcemia,
Mm-hmm.
which would be another problem that is typically for middle-aged women. I've had multiple of those. Whatever middle-aged women get, so does Rob.
That's like that one comedian that had appendicitis and he's like Googling and he's like, I have ovaries?
Seriously, like it was with the gallstones, and there was one other thing besides the hypercalcemia, which was like, I'm like, is menopause next? Like, should I be on board for that? So, but I'm curious too. Like when we say this, like maybe this is a selfish thing on my part. Like, well, how am I supposed to know? Like, how do you? If stress is just kind of the air you breathe, like how are you supposed to know you're stressed?
Yeah.
That makes, I don't.
Yeah.
Mike. Tell us, Mike. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, I suppose you can make the argument that you're not.
Not stressed?
Like this is just normal.
Well, yeah.
But then you find out, like, well, it's like what I've told you guys before. Sitting in my chair, I can feel this shoulder. It's always my left shoulder. Well, I drop it. It's like, apparently I'm holding that real tight.
See, but that's like, to me, I think, yeah, but then you're noticing that's not normal.
No, but I noticed that it's been doing it forever, and I'm not feeling pain in it. It's when I just pause to do like a body scan, even in a session where I'm like, what am I doing?
I mean,
so maybe it's more normal than I think it is. It's just I'm not body scanning all the time because at least not myself. You know what I'm saying? Hey, okay,
that's creepy.
Quite.
No, I mean, I don't know. To me, it feels like a safe assumption. You're stressed. Call it what you want to call it.
Like a safe assumption for anybody to just
say,
for
anybody. Yeah. Like,
yeah. But
call it anxiety, call it whatever. Like,
sure.
Just go ahead and assume you are.
Okay. Just assume you have cancer. I probably got cancer.
Those are the same thing. Which, like, sorry, what was the question you asked, Rob?
You really don't have to answer it. I'm just making.
I know, because I haven't talked. Because I don't talk yet. I know.
But it's just kind of, it's maybe me thinking out loud, like, because I think about this topic and I think, like what you're saying, Matt, that like most men, if you ask them, it's like, what stress, like, or what pain?
Yeah.
Well, or like, what, who cares? Go ahead, Mike.
And so that's like, I don't know how we choose to define things as people has been like fascinating to me, probably for the last year, where people will talk about stuff. I'm like, well, how are you defining that? Because I've realized as I talk to clients about things that they define things differently. And half the time they don't even know. Yeah. They just feel some kind of discomfort and they don't like it. Or they feel like something's missing and they want it. And so, like, to me, what you were talking about, Rob, that need to like know, and there's times I've told people like, yeah, you just got to sit in it. Like when a husband's, watching his wife be anxious and there's nothing he can do about it. And I said, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Just sit in it. Like you can't do anything. So just deal with the discomfort. Like find a way to manage it, but you can't make it go away for her. So if that's going to make you uncomfortable, then you're going to be uncomfortable and you're going to have to be okay with that. But I do think like most of the time, like I remember one guy, he's like, oh, I'm not going to like walk around and cry all day. I'm like, dude, why do you think that's what I'm asking you to do? Like, I don't care. I don't care if you show any emotion about it, but acknowledge that emotion is being felt. Like, don't pretend it's not. You're just lying to yourself at that point, which I think our brain, when, I don't know, this gets super tricky, I guess, in my head, but I think our brain does not, like, I think it knows when it's being lied to, I guess. I don't know. And so when we try to pretend that we're not feeling an emotion that we are, that's not going to go over well. Like, it'll create conflict within ourselves and probably make things worse. And so I do think it is important to kind of recognize it and maybe even try to understand where it's coming from. Do you have to, like we said, sit and wallow in it? No, you don't have to sit and wallow in it. Like, it's fine. You can just say, I don't like this, and be done with it for all I care. Like, if that's enough for you, then great. But I think I think it creates more stress to pretend nothing's wrong, because our body knows that's not true. Like, Rob's sitting here and, finding pain in his shoulder. And I think, well, yeah, something's bothering you.
Oh, it's not pain. I mean, it's just my muscle
And so I think, yeah, you can go ahead and try to pretend there's nothing, but like, clearly there's something. And so if you don't figure it out, then how are you going to address it?
This is what that's the part I think I can get on board with that idea. Assume you're stressed. I think most of us, if we really just pause for half a second, yeah, you're probably stressed out.
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah, more than you think you are.
So there's something.
Yeah. And probably consistent.
Well, and that's, I think part of where we get in trouble with this kind of thing is that we are comparative by nature.
Right.
And so we'll quickly say, well, I'm not as stressed as my neighbor who is going through a divorce and is getting, has to go find somewhere to live and is like, it's going to cause that our kids have to change schools. And I think it's not a comparison. I didn't ask if you were, more stressed than your neighbor. Doesn't matter to me if you're more stressed than your neighbor. I don't know your neighbor. It matters, are you stressed?
Screw your neighbor.
Like, if you have things that are causing you to be anxious, if you have things that are causing you to, wake up and think, oh, okay, I guess I have to go do this. Like, which I told him what's his name? Our accountant, Rob, your brother-in-law.
Jordan.
I had a meeting with him on Monday and I was like, you
were nervous?
I got super stressed about it. Yeah.
Jordan's a real judgmental accountant. He's like, you idiot. What kind of moron does that to his books?
Right? I mean, geez. But it's one of those where, right, like at some point I had to acknowledge, yeah, that's where some of my discomfort's coming from.
Yeah.
Like I had a whole bunch of things that were hitting this weekend, and that was just one more thing. I was like, oh, right. And then on Monday, I have to turn around and have this meeting that I don't. Wave? Yeah, I am. But
he texted me some questions about Wave. He's like, I've got some people who are working with Wave. I was like, oh,
yeah.
I think it was you. Probably you.
It could have been. When was he later. Texting you?
Don't worry about it. Keep going.
Anyway, but right, like understanding that was part of it. Now, was there anything I could do about it? No. Was it super significant stress? No, I just don't like talking about finances with people. Like, I've discovered that. And so going into it and just kind of recognizing, yeah, I'm stressed. Okay. I mean, we've talked before about I believe there's a lot of benefits in removing judgment from these emotions. There's nothing wrong with being stressed. It just means you've got a lot of things happening in your life, most of which are probably uncomfortable for you on some level, out of your control in another, things that you simply can't avoid. And so you got to deal with them at some point. Great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just life.
Well, this is what I think is tricky because I listened to this and actually as a teaser for our book club in the next few weeks, because I've been listening to it, The Scarcity Brain.
Mm-hmm.
And he's mentioning some things on this that we've talked about before when it comes to like recidivism rates for like teens going away to programs and coming back to the same environment. And he talks about it in the context of like, once you took these people out of this environment, they never went back to that addiction again. In Scarcity Brain, he talks about like heroin, for example. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about, I was talking with a client recently about the idea that like, but something has to change. You can't just change your mindset on this. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to actually change something. And so that what's interesting is, and I don't think there's an answer to this because any spaceman listening has to make oxygen choices. Because like, I think if I'm that exhausted and something's stressing me out, I have to change something. Like if this is consistent enough, and it is consistent, I'm not saying the cause of my exhaustion is stress. As far as I know, my entire life, I've always been tired. Mm-hmm. I used to sleep every single day in school. I've taken naps, like on my mission. Anytime I can think of, I was always taking naps. Apparently I'm just a tired person who, I don't know what my deal is. Maybe too much. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't matter. I take a lot of naps. So I'm not saying that the cause is stress, but I have recognized it for sure it plays a factor and is a role.
As a role in my life, it plays a factor.
And so, like I've thought, well, what do I need to change? Like I can't just keep doing the same thing and hoping that I can change my thinking on it. I think there's truth in changing some of my thinking. Like there's some things maybe that I've made too rigid or too black and white that I need to work on shifting how I'm viewing that. And, but I think there are some places where it's like, well, yeah, if I keep walking into the crack den, I'm probably going to use crack again. Like
maybe that's what's making you tired.
Stop using crack. So like, I think that's my
so you're like, that's usually the chair. And I'm like, where's the chair?
Let me hook a brother up. There you go. Anyway, Matt's all of a sudden putting his foot on my leg.
Felt like a bit of a fleshy chair there.
So I guess it's just me thinking out loud and kind of posing the question to spacemen, like, what is it? If you're exhausted and if you are noticing, if you actually take the time to say, hey, I think I'm actually pretty stressed, what things would you have to change to stop being that way? You can't just say, I want to be less stressed. And this is what gets me so frustrated about therapy in general, is people often come in saying, I don't like being stressed, but I don't want to change anything about my life. Can you change my thinking? It's like, no, you have to change something. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just like, for a lot of people I work with or for a lot of spacemen, there's probably a degree of like, yeah, there's probably, even if we just said everything's great, but my relationship's off, it's like, then you have to change something in your relationship. I don't know what that's going to be. Or maybe it's change something with your work. I have known people where they change their job and it does actually get much better.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's not the case because it's like, you're going to take this pattern with you, and I'm not proposing you change your spouse and it's going to get much better because that won't be the case. But I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to think about the role that stress plays. I just always love to see what ChatGPT has to say now. So I did a quick search and it's saying all the same things we're saying. It's like they're very tied together because stress can lead to exhaustion, which can create, poor sleep, which can create stress the next day, which can create exhaustion and all these things. And we don't even changing things like, well, maybe I should like go to bed half an hour earlier, or maybe I should stop, playing games on my phone, or maybe I should stop scrolling through news or Twitter or Instagram on my phone. Like some sort of even small changes like that could lead to less stress. I don't think we realize how much those things that we think are stress relievers are actually stress inducers.
Right.
Well, and I think it's like oftentimes if you're listening to this and we'll think, and we see a long list of things that need to be changed. And I think one of the, I don't know what you just said. I think sometimes what'll happen is we'll then try to make all of those changes.
Right.
It doesn't work, which right? It creates a super fun cycle. And I've started to realize lately, look, even if you can just find one thing, like one small thing, it doesn't have to be like huge life changing. If you can change that one thing consistently, if you can do it differently consistently, it will shift your trajectory, right? Like if I'm here and I shift that much, well, as that goes out, I'm in a very different place than I was just off of one small change.
Plus, who knows what changes you're going to make a result of that change.
Right, exactly. Like it will inevitably bring more changes. And success is a great motivator to be like, oh, well, I made this change, so I could probably make one of these other changes too. Right. But I do think there's a lot of benefit in just identifying, hey, here's this one thing that I could probably do differently than I'm doing it now, better, more efficiently, whatever. And I think there's a lot of benefit in that approach and saying, I'm going to just find one thing, and maybe it's one thing that'll be like a really easy change. Making my bed, the dumbest thing, and yet it's been a significant as how I shift through my day.
Finally give up crack.
Right? I mean, just from making my bed.
Crack. I shouldn't make jokes. That's interesting because I guess in my head, I think, so anyone listening I actually think the body scan thing of yourself is actually very, like I do it periodically, but like, oh man, it's surprising how often when I check in, it's like, oh, I'm actually holding something pretty tense and I didn't realize I was doing it. And it's not even to say I need to figure out what's making me tense in those moments. It's sometimes just a way of saying, okay, well, I just need to take some deep breaths and kind of like recenter myself or whatever you want to say. And then I can, when I kind of get into a better headspace, I might say, what is stressing me out? Like, and what's hard for me is I feel like the things that are stressing me out lately, some things are good stressors. There are good stressors, like my kid moving on to the next phase of their life. It's like, that's a good stressor. I want that to happen, but it also makes me really stressed and a little worried or a lot worried. But then there's not so great stressors that I keep feeling I'm hitting big ones. It's like I've created a professional life that has left me little wiggle room. And that's what Matt and I were talking about a little bit at like lunch. It's like, I'm going to have to make some changes that will probably be painful in the short term because I've tipped too heavy and I'm not doing fully what I want to do. And actually, it's funny. I've thought too lately about how much we think, I don't know, you guys, I'm veering way off topic, but I've thought about how much we get caught in doing the things we think we should do instead of like figuring out, well, how do I do something that feels like what I want to do, but also lets me live the kind of life I want to live? Like, do we ever pay attention to the life? How much do we pay attention to the life I want to live without going because sometimes we tip too hard and it's like, I'm just following my bliss, which I'm like, see, just ditching out on everything and doing whatever you want. That's not cool either. But just kind of thinking through that, like maybe my stress I'm doing is because I'm trying to contort into something I quote unquote should do. And I need to dial that back. I don't know. I don't know if there's, I mean, maybe I'm already to final thoughts. I don't know how long I've been doing this, but my final thought is to say, yeah, check in to see more often. Hey, am I stressed? Is this like, and part of it could be if I'm exhausted all the time, you may not be getting good sleep. If you're not getting good sleep, it could be because you're too stressed. It could be that you need to look and say, I mean, I know so many people where it's like they work all day, they come home and eat dinner and they go to work at night on their laptop. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you're all out of balance. Like something needs to tip. And I always think about the thing that you said, Matt, where it's, you were quoting somebody else, but the task will fill the time allotted to it.
Oh yeah.
That's like, I thought about that 100 times. Cause if I give myself 15 minutes, I'll do it in 15 minutes. If I give myself 4 hours, I did the same amount of 15-minute work in 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's not like I got more done in 4 hours. Anyway, so like just trying to look and see, well, what things would I have to change and be as honest as you can about like, could I change these things?
Yeah.
Because it's alarming too to find out how much stress plays a factor. How much it is a factor in like
it even affects your grammar.
Like men's heart health is abysmal.
Yeah.
Like this idea of like, I'm not stressed. It's like your heart would say otherwise.
Yeah.
And we die at early ages because we push ourselves too hard. It's like, stop and freaking pay attention. What are you doing this for?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a rambling parting thought. This has been a rambling episode for Rob. Well, do you guys have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would just say.
Oh, good.
I would say before you think about doing anything, because I think that's sadly, I think as men, we jump to that prematurely when we've just barely begun to register our pain.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even really know like what it is that we're feeling. We haven't stayed with that experience long enough and opened ourselves up to it in the right way to be able to know what to do. So I think what happens is oftentimes our change efforts are misguided. We're so much more focused on like, what do I do about this problem? Instead of like, how can I be differently with this problem?
Right.
And first I need to be able to be with the problem, and then, and like have the patience to sit with it. Not like we've said before, like just sit with your feelings. No, like experience and open yourself up to that pain in a way that allows you to move to some truths about that pain. And then, then I think you set in motion a very different process that, you'll know better what to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes you end up doing the very same thing that was your original idea, but from a very different place. And it's much more sustainable. This is something that I think is just going to be a lifelong process for me. I think, I'm good at it at times, and I think that I just fall back into old ways of being pretty regularly. But I do have like a really firm belief that the right way is what I'm saying. So it's easier to recognize when I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I still need people to point it out to me. I still need people that are struggling with the same thing to relate to, so that we can like work together on it. I was helping somebody move on Saturday, and I've been pretty frustrated with like the blood panel I got, because I'm like, dude, what? Like I feel like I was working really hard, and this is what happened. I'm like, so I was kind of depressed about it, and then, so that morning I like rucked for an hour, and then went and did the move, and it was like on the 3rd floor.
Oh boy.
And I started feeling like pretty exhausted, and I had that struggle where it's like, here comes heavy items, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that right now. And I had to kind of say like, guys, like and I got all this blood panel stuff in the back of my mind, so I'm feeling like a loser. And then I can't remember how it came up, but I was talking to this other guy, and I told him, and he's like, dude, me too. And he pulls out his phone. He's like, check out my number. It's like, I just got mine. And like, I'm like right where you are. And he's like, dude, I felt so alone. Like, I thought I was the only one. I was like, and we kept talking about it. And then somebody else overheard that and started talking to us about same thing. And then another guy's like, yeah, I want to make some changes too. So we're sitting there, and we have like a WhatsApp. Yeah. And so we're like, hey, let's just start like a subgroup for, what are we going to call it? And we're like throwing out names. We're like, fat to fit and blah, blah, blah. And then one of our friends that like has struggled with his weight, he's like, no, you can't call it fat. He's like, I'm fat, but I got good blood. You guys are fat on the inside. Like, they call it fat on the inside. So we did that first, and then we've changed it because I want more people to feel like it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. If you want to make some changes, like jump into this, and we'll just throw out suggestions. But like, you're right. When you look at the numbers, yeah, all of us are dealing with stress, health issues, things like that. And I think the more we're able to just identify that and whatever it takes to be able to help you to open up to it, whether that's you like kind of having a personal journey with it, whether it's you sharing it with somebody and then realizing you're not alone, right? I think we have to kind of sit with the problem longer than we do. We're too quick to try and get away from it, avoid it, or fix it. And then I think our solutions are, I mean, you hear people all the time like, oh yeah, man, I did this and it's amazing. And then it's like, you talk to them 6 months later. Yeah, it didn't really work. Like,
yeah.
And part of it's that we stopped doing the things that work. But I think another part is maybe that wasn't the full picture. And maybe a bigger part of the problem is knowing how to sit with your pain and changing that, right? So that you can understand it. You're not afraid of it. You're not like having knee-jerk reactions to it. Sit with your stress to be able to understand it and like let it continue to move and move you, but don't block it.
There you have it. Wise words from a man who knows how to ski.
Knows how to what?
Ski. It's from Better Off Dead.
Oh, that's right.
So I think there's some interesting inventory thoughts in there. But anyway, spacemen, do what we just said. And we too can fix you too. Come back next time and catch us on the Manspace. Get unblocked.